Good afternoon to everyone at today's public hearing of the Vetting Commission established under Law Number 65 of the year 2023 on the external evaluation of judges and candidates for judges of the Supreme Court of Justice. I'm Scott Bales, the chair of Panel B of the Commission, and I declare this session open. The hearing is being conducted under Law Number 252 of the year 2023 on the external evaluation of judges and prosecutors and amending some normative acts, and under the Commission's rules of organization and functioning as part of the evaluation process. The subject of today's hearing is Oxana Robu, a judge of the Central Court of Appeal, previously the Chișinău Court of Appeal. Judge Robu, welcome. And I hope I've pronounced your name correctly.
Hello. Yes, you pronounced my name correct.
I'm joined by two other panel members. To my right is Commissioner Willem Brouwer, and to my left is Commission Member Iurie Gațcan. The panel is also assisted by members of the Secretariat, and you may notice in the room some members of the public or the media. The photographer will take pictures briefly just at the start of the session. The hearing is being conducted with interpretation between Romanian and English, so it's important that everyone speaks slowly and clearly. Only one person should speak at a time. The proceedings are being recorded. The recordings of the public hearings generally will be available online at the Commission's website, www.vettingmd.eu, within 3 days after the hearing. The closed part of today's hearing will not be available on the Commission's website, but will be recorded and included in the evaluation file. During the hearing, one or more members of the panel will ask you questions. Please answer them completely and truthfully. Your answers are important to our assessing whether you have complied with the ethical and the financial criteria. At the end of the hearing, you'll be given an opportunity to make a brief closing statement. When we ask questions, we will try to respect the privacy of you and family members and close persons, so we will not refer to such things as specific bank account numbers or residential addresses. We'd ask you to do the same in your answers. I will now briefly review the evaluation process for Judge Robu. The Commission began its evaluation on April 11th, 2024 by notifying the judge by email and asking her to complete and return an ethics questionnaire and the declarations required by Law Number 252. Judge Robu returned the completed declarations and questionnaire on April 30th. As part of evaluating a subject's financial and ethical integrity, the Commission also obtains information from many other sources, such as the National Integrity Authority, the State Fiscal Service, the General Inspectorate of the Border Police, other public institutions, financial institutions, and open sources. The Commission assesses the information it obtains for its accuracy and reliability. On September 25th, 2024, the Commission asked Judge Robu to provide additional information by October 6th to clarify certain matters. After the deadline was twice extended at the subject's request, the judge provided answers and documents on October 22nd, 2024. On November 12th, the panel asked the judge to provide additional information by November 24th to clarify certain matters. After an extension, the judge provided answers and documents on December 4th, 2024. On December 18th, the panel asked Judge Robu to provide additional information by December 29th. She, after an extension of the deadline, provided answers and documents on January 10th, 2025. On January 24th, we notified Judge Robu that the panel had identified some areas of doubt about her compliance with the ethical and financial criteria, and we invited her to attend today's hearing. On February 4th, we advised the judge that the Commission had granted her request to hold part of the hearing in closed session. Judge, before we go further, do you want to make any corrections or additions to the answers you've previously provided to the Commission?
Esteemed panel, I support everything presented by me, including additional explanations sent on 4th of February 2025. But I would like to add something to the documents sent and provide you with a declaration, goodwill declaration. I received it on 5th February 2025. And because you, dear Chair, made a presentation on the expansion of the deadline requested by the subject of the evaluation, by myself, in order to clarify certain doubts identified during the evaluation process and during the provision of answers to the questions asked, I will kindly request for the information from the ICMS to be included, information on the number of cases in appeal and second appeal for the entire period of evaluation of the subject, in order for you to be convinced that there was no bad intent during that period of time. I, the judge, examined 233 criminal cases. In appeal, 1,053 criminal cases, and in review, 8 criminal cases. I ask for your permission for these documents I am referring to and I will refer to when you'll ask the questions, to be included in your file, evaluation file, after the hearing. Or perhaps you propose a different format and I can accept it.
Judge, have you given copies of those documents to the Secretariat? Are these things that, do we have these documents yet?
I want to present them today.
All right. We'll take copies and we'll include them in the evaluation file. Let me, before we otherwise go further, let me just confirm, are the answers that you provided on April 30th, 2024 to the ethics questionnaire and the 5-year declaration, are they still accurate as of today?
Yes, obviously.
Okay. Well, we'll now ask some questions related to topics mentioned in the hearing notice. We're going to try to keep our questions short and to the point. We ask that you keep your answers short and to the point as well. And Commission Member Willem Brouwer will start with the questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Madam Robu. As you have noticed in our hearing notice, we signal some concerns about your financial integrity. Before I go to all the minuses that we figured out during the years, I have here your explanations that you filed the 5th of February. These are known to us, so if you want to give an answer that's already in the notes, you may refer to the notes, okay? First of all, there is a house in Chișinău in the Virarilor Street. What? Excuse me?
Virarilor Street.
I will never manage, but we know what we're talking about. This house has been built in the courtyard of your parents' house, and there is something strange on it. First of all, It's built for very low money, approximately 200,000 lei by your parents, and you added 153,000 lei, I think, for doors and bathroom, approximately. Whereas the house has been esteemed for insurance matters for 120,000 euros, which is 400 odd thousand lei. You state that this house has been financed and built by your father together with his brother, your uncle. But we didn't find any significant income at your father's account, nor at your mother's account. How did they manage to finance this?
Vă mulțumesc, domnul Willem.
Thank you, Mr. William.
Mai întâi de toate,
I think,
ar trebui
first of
să
all,
concretizez
I
aspectele
would need to
ce
clarify
țin de dobândirea
certain
dreptului de
aspects
proprietate de către
related
părinți
to the right of ownership received from my parents
din
regarding this
de la Fierarelor,
property on
pe
Fierarelor.
care l-au obținut la 26
Actually,
februarie 2004.
They received ownership of that house on
Deci,
26
odată cu dobândirea
February
dreptului de
2024.
proprietate asupra casei, ei au
2004.
dobândit și dreptul
They
de
received
posesie
ownership
și
rights
folosință asupra
and the rights
terenului
to
aferent
use
casei.
not only the house but also the court that was nearby the house.
I just interrupt you because that's in your notes. You already told this. My question is,
Da.
how could they afford building a new house next to their old house?
Păi, vreau să continui, dacă îmi permite.
I would like
Okay,
to
go
continue,
on.
if I may.
Deci, în 2010,
In 2010,
după ce au folosit acest teren
after
aferent casei,
they
părinții
used
au
this
achiziționat
courtyard,
de la primărie
they bought from the Chișinău municipality city hall the piece of
după
land.
procurarea acestui teren,
After the piece of land that they've used during 7 years, in 2012, they started building
noi căsuți.
a new
Deci, în
little
baza
house.
documentelor pe care
based
le-au
on the
obținut
documents
de la
received
organele competente.
from competent
Deci mă
authorities.
refer la certificatul de
I mean,
urbanism
the
din 2011,
urban certificate from
autorizația de
2011
construcție din 2012.
and the construction permit from 2012.
Deci, în baza procesului verbal
Based
de
on
recepție
the
finală
report of final
din
receipt
7 aprilie
of 7
2015,
April 2015,
care a fost emis de Comisia
issued
de
by
recepție finală
the Commission,
specială,
Special Commission for
și în baza
Final Receipt
acestui proces
of
verbal
Works,
de recepție
and
finală,
based on
Comisia
this document,
a
the
verificat
Commission
valoarea
verified the
unui
value of
imobil
the
pe care
real
l-a
estate
recepționat și a fost indicată valoarea acestui bun
and the value
în
of that
actul
real estate,
respectiv.
that property was
Deci,
included
autoritățile
in that
cadastrale
document.
locale
Local cadastral authorities
au înregistrat casa nou
registered
locuită cu suprafața de
the new
65
house
de metri pătrați.
that is 65 square meters.
de metri
I
pătrați,
repeat,
pentru că
65
pe parcurs
square
apare
meters,
o suprafață de
because
135 de metri
I
pătrați
saw that
în,
you mentioned 135
informațiile
square
care au
meters.
fost eliberate de către
At
compania
least
imobiliară
in the information
Lara.
provided by Lara,
Și a
by the
fost
real estate
atribuit
company, it was
un nou număr
135. And a new cadastral number was issued
Deci pe parcursul a trei
for
runde
this
de
property.
întrebări,
During the 3 rounds of questions,
deci eu am prezentat
I
acele
have presented
înscrisuri
the documents, the
pe
receipts,
care confirmă cheltuielile suportate de
confirming
părinți în
the
legătură cu
expenses
construcția
incurred
acestui
by my
bun.
parents in order to build this
La
property,
început,
this
dumneavoastră,
house.
ați menționat
At the
că,
beginning,
Comisia
you mentioned
a
that
identificat
the Commission
ca
has
fiind
identified
valoarea acestui bun
that the
de
value of
120.000
this
de euro,
asset is 120,000 euros.
nu corespunde adevărului.
This is
Ori această
not
valoare de
true.
120.000 de
This amount, 120,000 euros,
de către compania
was
de asigurare.
estimated by the insurance company.
Deci valoarea care a fost stabilită
But
de
the
compania de
value
asigurare deja
so
după ce
it was the value
acest
determined
bun
by the
imobil
insurance company
a fost
only
transmis
after this
în baza contractului de
property
donație,
was
nepotului după fiică a
passed
căzit.
over to a different
Deci,
person.
la materialele dosarului și comisia dispune de acele
In the file materials, the Commission included confirmation documents presented
și de
by
care
my
ei
parents.
dispuneau pentru
They
sumele
had
de
these
57.500
documents,
de lei, 450
and they had
de euro,
57,500 lei, $200. There are several expenses, several amounts, 5,000 lei. There are several amounts included there
Eu am
used to
prezentat
build
aceste
the
înscrisuri
house. I
deoarece
presented
doar aceste
these
sume, la
receipts
momentul solicitării,
and documents
părinții
because my parents
dețineau
had only
informații.
these informations and
Totodată,
these
am mai
documents when I
menționat
asked
că,
them about this topic.
părinții mei au suportat
I
și
also
cheltuieli
mentioned
pentru
that
materiale de construcție,
my parents
însă, la
had
moment,
costs
pentru că au
for
trecut
construction
mai mult de
materials,
14
but
ani,
because
nu le-au păstrat.
it happened 14
Însă,
years
cu titlul de
ago, they did not
informare,
keep
vreau
those
să
receipts.
menționez că
But for your information,
tatăl
I'd like to
meu,
say
împreună
that
cu
my
fratele
father, together with
său,
his brother,
au fost cofondatorii
were
unei
the
societăți comerciale,
co-founders
SRL
of
Constructor,
LLC
în
Constructor.
care au activat în domeniul construcțiilor. Deci,
It
la
was a
fel, acte de
construction
care și comisia
company,
dispune potrivit
and the Commission
materialele dosare.
has at
Și
its
o bună parte din
disposal these
materialele de
documents,
construcție
and a good
și
share
finisare
of the
le-a
construction
primit de la
materials
fratele său
were
cu titlul
received
gratuit,
from
deoarece
his brother, my
administra
uncle,
societatea
because
comercială care activa în domeniul construcției.
he had a company
Și în acest
in the
sens,
construction sector.
Vreau să vă prezint acea declarație pe propria
And
răspundere
I'd like to
a
give you
fratelui
the
tatălui meu,
goodwill
care
declaration
confirmă
of
că
my uncle,
a oferit
the brother
materiale
of
de
my father,
construcție
stating
și a acordat
that
ajutor
he has
la
provided construction
manual
materials
operații
and
de locuiri
provided
pe adresa
manual
menționată,
labor in order to help with the
pe
construction
care a
of the
construit-o
house
în
on that
perioada
address.
2012
It was built
2015,
between
fratele
2012
acestuia,
2015.
Ștefan.
Bombu Stefan. This is the
Deci, nu pot
statement
fi de acord
of
cu
Bombu Stefan.
afirmația
I cannot
care
agree
a
with
fost menționată în notificarea
what
de
was
audiere,
mentioned in the
că
hearing notice,
părinții au înregistrat
that my
solduri
parents
de la sfârșitul anilor calculate ca diferență dintre veniturile
had a
lor
difference between
din
their
taxe și
expenses and
cheltuielile lor
income
de consum, după
in those
tabelul care a
years,
fost
according to the
reflectat
chart
de către comisie.
presented by the Commission.
Și nu erau capabili
And according to the
financiar să
Commission, they
construiască o
had
casă
no financial means to build a
care,
house.
în opinia comisiei,
And in the Commission's
este
opinion,
evaluată la valoarea
that house
cuprinsă
was
între
assessed between
682.500 de lei
682,000 lei
747.500 de lei.
and
Vreau
700,000
să
lei.
menționez că părinții mei
I want to say that
au
my
deținut în
parents
proprietate
had,
din 1985
from 1985 until 2011, had in their
sectorul schinoasă.
property a villa
bun
in
imobil
Schinoasa
pe adresa
district
menționată.
of Chișinău. There was real estate on that
Răspuns.
address, and
Mai multe
you have it
automobile,
in my answers.
Deci
They
circa
had
6
several cars,
automobile,
around
pe
6
care
cars.
tatăl meu
At the same
părinții
time?
le-au înstrăinat.
Did they have 6 cars at the same time?
Nu, desigur că nu.
No,
Se gândeau
obviously
la
One
no.
after the other.
Da.
Okay.
unul după altul. Da.
Yes, one
Unul
after
se
the
vindea,
other.
în rezultatul
They would sell
căruia se cumpăra
The old car
alt
and
automobil.
a new car would be bought.
Deci pe care le-au înstrăinat, deci atât
They
bunurile
sold
mobile cât și
the
bunurile
assets,
imobile,
the movable and
iar
immovable
veniturile
assets,
le-au păstrat
and
în
the,
cai economici
that
și le-au
income
folosit
was
pentru
saved.
necesitățile lor.
So it was savings used for their needs.
Totodată, după cum am menționat, tatăl activat în
As I've mentioned, my father worked in Constructorul LLC and had an income during the operation of that company. So he had the necessary financial means to build that
O
house.
bună parte, după cum am menționat, a fost primită de la fratele
And
lui
a
care
good share
administra
of the money was received also from
ce
the
ține de documentul
from my
eliberat de
uncle who
companie
had that company.
iar
Regarding the document issued by Lara Agency, the Commission
consider că,
referred to,
acest înscris
I believe that that document
informațional
is
privind
only
valoarea
for
mediei
information
de piață
purposes
a casei de
on
locuit.
the average market price
Now,
of
I'm
that
going to
house.
interrupt you again because I think you answered my question now. My question was, how did your parents pay for the building? You say, well, they had real estate, sold it, kept the money, and paid it. I don't see how they could pay it with the selling of cars because they bought new cars, but that's concise your answer to my question. It's all right? Yeah?
Da,
Da.
mă scuzați, dar totodată ați menționat
Yes, sorry,
și
but you
că
also
valoarea
mentioned
imobilului era cu mult mai mare
the
decât cea
assessment
declarată
by
în,
the insurance
actul de recepție
company,
finală.
which
Și de aceea am vrut să
was
vă
different. There
spun
was
că
a
nu
different
poate fi
estimate,
reținut,
and I wanted to explain that
titlul, de probă această
you cannot
informație,
use this information as
ori,
evidence.
În primul rând, în 2013,
And first of all, in
construcția de 65
2013,
de metri pătrați nici nu era ridicată.
this house was
Și
not
după cum
built
am
yet,
mai
this
menționat,
house of 65 square meters.
Valoarea prezentată
But the value presented by this real estate company is the average market price for real estate, depending on the conditions of the transaction and depending on other conditionalities.
You've explained this in your notice. After building it, they donated it to your son, and from what I have understood, you're living in it with your son or alone?
Nu, împreună cu fiul.
We are living together, actually.
Okay. I learned that your son has been studying abroad.
A studiat. Deja
That's correct. He studied abroad, but he already completed his studies.
That was my next question. Has he already completed it? So he is back home living with you in that house. You said your father had income from, and now I have to look at the name, it's Constructorilor SRL. How long was that company active? Do you know that?
nu vă pot spune exact, dar
I cannot tell you exactly
în orice caz în perioada când se construia
but in any case, while he was building that small house
acestuia și tatăl meu
by my father and by his brother, they actually worked together in that company. So
That's what I understand, but
Uh,
to my information is that this company was liquidated in 2007. And information from the state tax service indicates that this company didn't earn any income in the period between 1998 and 2011. At least a very small amount of income. So I think I appreciate that your father and your uncle have built the house together, but I don't see any income from this company unless you can tell me something else.
eu cu certitudine vă declar
with certainty, I can tell you that based on the documentation,
activitatea,
we
însă el se
we
ducea la
can
lucru
state that indeed that company
de dimineață și vinea seara pentru că muncea
is not existent anymore, but they had an activity, they worked in that company.
la administratorul
I'm not sure what kind of activities that they were carrying on, but they we certainly did some jobs, and they've had many activities with this company.
Okay, then the surface, you state 65 square meters. I've seen 65 square meters, also seen 130 odd square meters. Might it be that these 65 square meters is per level, per floor?
E foarte mic.
It's a very small house, and there was mentioned the land plot that they acquired, they used that land plot to build this small house.
No. Initially it was built as a holiday house, I believe. At least that's what you told us in your answers. And was it meant to be rented out for tourists? Or? No?
No, that's not correct.
It doesn't infect you, but who wants to build a holiday house in his garden without doing anything with it? Or was it initially meant for your son or for you to live in?
Initially, my parents had the intention to use this land plot which they have acquired from the mayoralty. They intended it to build a new house because their own house in which they lived was quite small and they didn't have enough room. Therefore, given that we had lots of guests, our brothers-in-law, our relatives, it was their desire to build a new vacation house.
I'm sorry. Well, if you can ask a question, because I'm not sure what you mean.
Judge, I'm not sure I followed the answer about the size of the house. I know that when the house was transferred to your son, it identified the area as 135 square meters. We've seen some other references to 65 square meters. Do you know what accounts for that difference?
After this house has been commissioned, the cadastral value of this house has been established by proper authorities. Again, the cadastral value of this real estate, of this property, and based on the certification to which you refer, it was established that the overall surface is of 135.9 square meters, and the value of this property established by cadastral authorities is an estimated value of this property in order to have a taxation benchmark.
Answer is clear. Thank you. It's clear. Okay. You live in the house. Do you pay rent?
Did I live in this house?
Yes, but do you pay rent to your son because he's the legal owner? Huh?
I don't pay any rent to my son. However, I do have the right of co-living in this house because in the period when he decided to go abroad for studies, someone had to live in that house. And later on, when I decided to invest in 2014 in the construction of an apartment, I also obtained the ownership right in 2017 over this apartment.
In Chișinău.
That's correct, in Chișinău. And I started some repairs in this apartment. Back then, my father got ill, seriously ill. He underwent, he had a very serious stroke. Therefore, I had to sell that apartment and get closer to my parents, because both my father and mother needed my care, my permanent care from a family member.
Okay. Thank you. On the House, colleagues, are there any questions left? Then I want to go on to the next subject, which is a point of discussion. In the assessed period, you used a couple of cars which apparently belonged to your ex-husband, Oxana Robu, and where we couldn't establish any income with Oxana Robu. My question is, what kind of a job does he have?
My former husband, Ion Robu, he had an activity within Vaux Ltd, LCC. He used to be an administrator in that LLC. At the same time, in 2003, since we separated, got separated with Ion Robu, he went abroad quite frequently. And I know that he used to import many vehicles from abroad. He sold them on the local market and received some income following this sort of transactions. At the same time, he owned several assets. One of those assets had been sold
For 35,000 euros.
That's correct. That's correct. I have presented that statement. He used to be the owner of the real estate from Alexandru cel Bun Street. That real estate was sold for $35,000.
In 25 August 2000.
La 25 august 2000.
Totodată,
And you have issued a declaration made by Madam Cezara Elena Pulișca. Yes, and she has. I've seen the declaration. I mean, she declares that this real estate was sold for 35,000 euros, and Oxana Robu received 35,000 euros. This
$35,000
Actually received $35,000, not euro.
Okay, well, yes, you're right. It's U.S. dollars. Madame Cezara Elena Pulișca was born in 1994. At the moment of the sale, she was 6 years old. How could she remember this? Please explain that.
Vă explic. Deci, dat fiind faptul că
Indeed, given, and as I mentioned,
fostul soț
my former husband used to live abroad,
am putut prezenta atunci
and I was not able
rundele de întrebări aceste
to answer properly when I received
răspuns la
questions during the rounds of questions. So when he came back,
actualii proprietari.
he went to the actual owners of this real estate in order to confirm, because I asked him to present documentation to justify financial capacity.
Deci la data când s-a adresat, deci 28 ianuarie,
On 28 January 2025,
Cezara
Cezara
Polișca
Polișca
a comunicat, deci în casa aceasta
has communicated
dumneiei,
that she lives in this house.
proprietar acestui bun imobil, pentru că
She is the owner of this real estate because her mother, who bought this
este plecată
property from Robu Ion,
pe hotare.
left Moldova and she is living abroad. She reached out to her mother by phone and she lives together with her grandfather, who was present at the moment of signing of the agreement.
Legătură cu circumstanțele date,
And related to the circumstances, at the request of my former husband, they have issued this statement in order to confirm the income resulted as part of this transaction. I wasn't present during
ce mi-a oferit
this agreement, and I only presented what my husband, my former husband, submitted to me.
Yeah, thank you. That resolves at least one mystery. Our girl of 6 years old could remember 35,000 US dollars in 2000. So, if I summarize what you say about the income of your husband, your ex-husband, I must say, you divorced in 2003. He went abroad. You didn't say where he went, to a specific country or to different countries?
în Germania,
He went to Germany,
Franța,
he went to France, Netherlands,
țări din Europa.
many countries, many European countries.
And he made it a business to import cars in Moldova and make a living out of selling cars?
Nu se ocupa în particular.
No, she didn't make a business, actually, an official, without having a legal company or a legal LCC. She used to do that as a individual. It was, for him, it was an activity that generated money for him.
Yes.
Dacă ați observat,
Was it all he did, or did he also have another job or another occupation?
am explicat că mai deținea
He also
unei societăți
used to be the administrator of a company who was involved in the provision of various services.
You mean Vaux SRL? Da?
Da.
That's correct.
Well, of course, we did some homework. That company didn't record any income during the period 2012-2023. And that's from the State Tax Service database. So either he didn't have income or he didn't declare it to the state service, the tax service. But anyway, so he, as a side job, he imported cars and made money out of that, and he also imported cars and made them available for you. Is that correct, this assumption?
The vehicles he imported to Moldova, as you said, he used to provide us with some cars to me and to my son when we needed them. And when he requested to return the cars, we did so, because he was the owner of those cars, and he was the beneficial owner. He had beneficial ownership over these cars.
Well, don't think so. He had real ownership. And if there's a beneficial owner, then it would be you or your son. But anyway, that's not so important. As I recall, there was one Opel Mokka, you never drove it. Is that correct?
Exact.
Because
It's correct.
it didn't have an automatic gear.
Not only due to that, I would like to point out that he had a condition whenever you register an imported car on the territory of the Republic of Moldova. You need also to sign an agreement, an insurance agreement, which, according to the legislation, it was compulsory for the owners to also list the people who are entitled to use these vehicles. So in this agreement, we listed the people who had the right of ownership over the vehicle, but also the people who are using these vehicles. So when we separated, we had an agreement that he will contribute to supporting my son, our son, and due to the fact that our son is living together with me, he did so in order to help us whenever our son had to be transported to the Lyceum or whenever he had to be involved in our extracurricular activities. He gave us this right to use these vehicles for the needs of our son. When our son became an adult, he also was listed in the insurances, so he had the right to use them accordingly.
Yeah. Did you ever pay for any of these cars?
Negative. And with all my responsibility, I would like to emphasize that I never paid anything for the usage of these vehicles. And I also did not receive any money when these vehicles were sold. And also based on the materials annexed to the file, the Commission has identified that he was the person who was responsible to pass the technical inspection, to carry out the technical inspections. He also was in charge to conduct their workshops if needed.
I've seen it. It's in the file. Well, are there any questions with my colleague on the cars?
Let me ask just a couple follow-up questions, Judge. First, understand from your answers that you didn't use the Opel Mokka car. If you didn't use it, why were you identified on, why did you register your right of use of that car?
Because my former husband included me in the insurance agreement as a user of this car. As I've explained, it was mandatory when such agreements were concluded. And taking into account this thing, I have declared this fact, the right of use for this car, because it was in the insurance contract, in the insurance agreement, and I declared this to Nia. It would have been wrong for me not to declare this.
Okay, so
and I would be sanctioned for that.
Maybe this is what you mean, and I just didn't understand it. So you did have a legal right to use the car, but you did not, in fact, use it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, right.
Let me ask another broader question. During the period 2012 to 2023, the Customs Service records indicate your husband imported 5 cars. Do you have any reason to think that he imported other cars in addition to those 5?
According to the questions sent to me, I informed the Commission that he imported other cars as well.
Do you know if he was doing that under the name of someone else or under the name of a business entity?
He didn't tell me. I didn't ask him.
Do you have any specific information as to how many cars he would have otherwise imported other than the 5?
You want the exact number?
Or even, do you have a basis to estimate if you don't know an exact number?
I don't know the exact number. I told you, since 2003, after the divorce, he already had another life, private life. I didn't know what he was doing. And we were linked or in contact only because we had to raise our child, and everything, all the communication was related to his upbringing.
Yes.
I want to say that my former husband has provided the right of use over these cars without conditionalities. I did not request for this right of use. And he has given me this right in order to contribute to meeting the needs of the upbringing and education of his son.
Okay, thank you. I think that concludes the question of the cars. Then we have the unexplained assets during the years. To cut this short, in 2012, 13, 14 and 15, what I understand of your explanation and from your documents is that you say the costs for the house are not paid by me but by my parents, and that includes in 2012 64,503 lei, and in 13 it is 29,259 lei, and 14 is 35,000 lei, and in 15 is 30,000 lei. You have told the Commission that these expenses should not be taken into account on your behalf. Is that correct?
Corect.
It's right. And I have given explanations.
Well, yes, you have. If I'm naming numbers, I do it very slow in order for our interpreters to be able to interpret it. Please do the same if you want to call numbers, okay? And then you also stated that the cars were not paid by you, but they were paid by your ex-husband and made available to you. So these amounts of money for the several cars in 2012, 13, in 2017 and 2019 should not be taken into account on your behalf, but should be eliminated from our calculations. Is that correct?
Corect.
Correct.
Yes, it's correct.
Okay, then we need not talk about it further because you explained it before. Then I go to your documents on unexplained assets in 2016. You said, I consider erroneous the Commission's conclusion on the attribution of the outflows of expenses in the amount of 11,733 lei, 11,733, and 1,431 lei for the repayment of bank loans, because they were made from cash savings, but it was still payments, were they?
Corect și
Yes, correct.
de aceea
And this is why
am considerat că aceste
I deemed these expenses
11.733 de lei
amounting to 11,733 lei and 1,431 lei to be done from the cash savings that I owned back then, which was 250,000 lei
Yes.
during that period of time.
But in our calculations, these 250,000 cash savings are taken as an income. So if you spend of that savings, it should also be taken as an expense. So I think this is kind
Exact.
of...
Și mai avem economie.
Yes, exactly. But I also had cash savings at the end of the year, 120,000 lei.
Yes, and it's also considered as an expense in 2016.
Da,
Yeah?
Yes,
de acord.
Okay,
agree.
You agree. That's nice. Then we go to 2017. Even kijken. In 2017. Yeah. Again, there is the Mercedes that you don't want to imply, and then there is alimony of 97,000. Could you explain what you mean with this?
Onorați membri,
Esteemed members
am
of the Commission,
explicat că nu
I
vreau să le
explained.
dar
It's
eu
not like
nu
I don't want to include this money, but I did not incur these costs,
astfel de cheltuieli
these expenses
care mi se impută mie
that
că
are imputed to me.
am achiziționat vehiculul
You say
în
that I
valoarea
bought
respectivă.
the car amounting to
Deci,
that value.
consider că
I believe
aprecierile comisiei
that the Commission's conclusions
incorecte și
are incorrect
subiective
and
în legătură
subjective
cu aprecierea
when it comes
faptului
to
că vehiculul
stating
respectiv,
that that
care a
particular
fost
car
cumpărat
that
de
was
către
bought
fostul
by
soț
my former
în
husband, by my
2017,
ex-husband in
mi se
2017,
atribuie mie ca fiind
is
proprietar
attributed
efectiv.
to me as I am being the beneficial owner.
Madam Robu, we already discussed this. You already stated that you think it's erroneous. I'm now talking about an alimony of 97,000 lei in 2017.
Am înțeles, dar
Yes,
totodată
I understand, but you also mentioned the car.
ați
Yes,
spus
but
că
the
eu
car-
nu
we
doresc
have
să fie
we have
inclus.
we have discussed the cars. Yes.
Da.
Please
Deci,
go to
cu
the alimony
referire
now.
la alocație. Da, deci
Okay.
cu referire la alocație,
About the alimony.
Comisia a omis
The Commission
să indice în fluxul
did not
financiar
include in the
a
incoming
pentru perioada 2007
financial flow of the household for 2017 the amount of 97,000 lei that
tipul de
I have
pensie de
indicated
întreținere
as
care a fost obținută
an
pe
alimony
anilor de la fostul soț.
received over the years from my ex-husband. This is an amount that I have declared
De avere și
in my
personale.
declaration of assets and personal interests in the for the period reported to the National Integrity Authority,
Un fond de economii
and
de numerar
it led to a cash savings at the end of the year
17.000.
of 217,000. Those 120,000 that were cash savings at the beginning of the year,
Și plus 97
plus 97,000 lei,
sumă obținută
led to the amount
cu titlul de pensii de întreținere.
led to the final amount due to
Eu
that
consider că
alimony.
ea urma să fie inclusă la
I believe that it should have been included in the ingoing financial flows.
That's clear that you think that it should be included. How did you receive this money?
Deci acești bani i-am primit de la fostul soț.
I received this money from my ex-husband
Yes.
Este o hotărâre
Cash?
because
Or
there's a
bank?
court
Cash.
order.
Cash.
Da.
Yes.
Enumerat.
Yes,
And
cash.
you received it all in 2017?
Acești bani am primit
I received this money.
pe toți în 2017.
I received it all in 2017, indeed.
Din înțelegerea cu fostul soț,
But due to an agreement with my husband, ex-husband,
noi am convenit că
we agreed for
el mi-a
him
propus să-mi achite
to do the following. So he
lunar sau
suggested to
periodic,
make monthly payments, periodic
sau în
payments
cazul în care voi avea
for this
nevoie
alimony,
să mă
or
adresez.
when needed. He told me I
Însă am
could
convenit
ask for
că
money when I
dânsul
needed. But
o să
in the end, we made an agreement according to which
ofere suma dată
he
la majoratul fiului.
would provide this amount of money when our son turned 18. In 2017, my son turned 18, so he became an adult.
A fost oferită
And
această sumă de bani.
this amount of money was given by my ex-husband.
And it was given to you, not to your son?
Da.
Da.
Mi-a fost
Yes.
dată mie pentru că
It was given to me
fiul, toate că
because my son, even though he turned 18, was supported by me. I still supported him, and he was a student that I supported together with my ex-husband. And we paid together for his education and for the expenses related to his education abroad.
Yes. I forgot one question about cars, not about these cars, but do you still drive in a car provided by your ex-husband?
Acum, fiului și mie mi-a fost oferit
Currently, to me and my son, we were given a Volvo
periodic.
vehicle, a Volvo car.
Okay. Okay. Then, are there?
One question. Domnul Robu, ați menționat că
Madam
ați
Robu,
primit acești
you
bani,
mentioned that
7.000
you
de
received
lei în
these
anul
97,000 lei in 2017.
Ați
Could you
declarat
please tell us,
aceste
did you declare
financiare în
this
declarația
financial
de
means in the declaration on assets and personal interests? Yes. In which chapter is it? I don't remember quite exactly. Perhaps I don't remember.
Dacă mă ajutați,
Perhaps you can help me.
Capitolul veniturilor nu există, dar
It's
există
not in the income chapter, but it's in the cash
de aceea și vă zic, am
chapter.
primit acești bani în
Yes, this is why I told you I received it in cash,
dată și am indicat la acest.
and I included this in this chapter in the declaration, but you did not include it in the chapter on income. No. Okay, understood.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Then a last question on this inexplicable wealth thing is you mentioned that trip to Holland and a trip to Slovenia of 24,695 lei should be concluded, implied in the cash flow. Is that correct?
Da, corect.
In the ATM withdrawals? Yes? Okay.
Da, corect.
Yes, correct.
That concludes my questioning on the unexpected wealth. Is there anything else to ask? Okay. Then there were some issues on court cases. And I will briefly discuss them with you, or at least have you given the opportunity to react on that. I must say you have reacted on this writtenly, quite extensive. The first is the case of Kosovan, and I think you will remember that case. And if you don't remember that case, I will tell you what it was all about. Mr. Kosovan was. You know the case.
I remember the case.
We should do this in closed session, I think. Yes.
So we are going to go into closed session to discuss some of the doubts that we identified related to cases resulting in European Court of Human Rights decisions. I ask that people in the room other than the videographers and the interpreters please leave. We'll resume open session once we're finished with this discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Judge, we're nearing the end of our proceeding, and I would like to know, would you like to make a brief statement before we wrap things up? Is there anything you would like to tell us by way of conclusions?
Da, desigur.
Yes, indeed, I would like to say something in this respect.
Vreau, în primul rând,
First of all, I would like to thank to the esteemed panel
acest timp.
for providing me this time
A avut răbdarea să asculte explicații
and for bearing with me while
acele acte
I was delivering the information and
oferite atât de subiect
and you have accepted the information provided by me, and the Secretariat collected this information accordingly with regard to the issues related to the hearing. And hopefully that the members of the Commission, based on their competencies and professional expertise, will take into consideration my arguments when approving the report. Last but not least, I would like to thank the Secretariat of the Commission, which was very receptive and acted promptly when asking and providing the information which I requested. And of course, I would like to submit to you that this very exercise, to me personally, has been both simple and complex at the same time. Because in my activity, I was always just and tried to respond honestly to all the questions, but also I presented and delivered all the documentation which was required. It was complex at the same time because it was hard to do so from a psychological point of view. Namely due to the fact that I had to provide answers and to provide documentation in the required terms. And when you're being involved in some other activities, like, for example, my time spent at the university as a lecturer, or being involved as a trainer within the National Institute of Justice, and most important, the pending cases at the appeals court, which were set for examination. Therefore, as a judge, you need to have time to study those cases, to be prepared to take some important decisions in the assigned days. And the justices and other participants in the process don't have to know absolutely everything that the judge is going through. Therefore, I would like to use this opportunity to thank my parents and my relatives that were willing to support me and didn't quite understand how to support me in this respect. And I hope and ask respectfully the panel to take in consideration my arguments and the evidence presented and take this into account when judging this case. Thank you very much.
Judge, thank you for your answers today and the information that you previously have provided to the Commission. That will bring us to the end of our hearing. The panel, after we conclude today, will approve an evaluation report stating its conclusion whether Judge Robu meets the conditions for ethical and financial integrity under Law 252. The panel will strive to complete and approve its evaluation report and announce its conclusion as soon as possible. This hearing is now closed. Everyone, good afternoon.
Mulțumesc.